Hey everyone, welcome to the Sackhoff Show. I am your host, Katee Sackhoff. Thank you so much for being here on this beautiful Tuesday. I am so happy to have you here. I want to remind you before we get into who the guest is to stick around for the Hindsight, where my producer and I talk about the episode and what's going on with us and my life and my convention schedule and all of that fun stuff. You can send your comments and your questions to thesackhoffshow@gmail.com. And what's so cool about that is we actually talk about those comments and questions and things like that in the Hindsight. So if there's something you're dying to know, send it to us at thesackhoffshow@gmail.com, and we probably will actually talk about it. I want to get into who this guest is. I am so excited. I have been a fan of her for many, 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 many years. I met her, well, I'll tell you how I met her, but first I'll tell you who it is. Today's guest is the wonderful, the most amazingly talented actress, Lake Bell. And now she adds children's author to that list. If you don't know who Lake is, she is in The Secret Life of Pets. In Harley Quinn, she plays Poison Ivy. Yes, we do talk about that. She's on the show Children's Hospital. She was in Black Panther and What If, both on Disney+. Lake's new book, All About Brains, a book about people, is a wonderful children's book that came out a week ago. We talk about it in the podcast, and it sounds like a really wonderful book. I am getting it for our kids, and I'm just really excited. I met Lake actually through my ex, Scott, who we've talked about quite a bit on the show, is a producer, and Lake was doing a movie of his, and I met her on set, and she was so wonderful, and I just thought she was so talented and so kind and so smart that I was just instantly a fan of hers, and I've enjoyed watching her career since then, and that was about 15, 20 years ago. It was a long time ago, and we talk about that. I want to also thank you all so much. We got so many emails about my birthday, which was 2 weeks ago. I really appreciate that. It's if you know anything about me, and if you're listening to the podcast or following me on social media, you know that I think birthdays are just a wonderful gift. And aging and living life is such a gift. So I love birthdays. I love aging. I think it's truly special. So I love that you all reached out. So thank you again. If you don't know Lake, I highly suggest this episode because you will get to know so much about her, and she is just such a thoughtful human being, and I am an even bigger fan than I was when we started. So I'm going to get out of your way so you can do just that and get to know my new friend, Lake Bell. I have been aware of your career and a fan of your career for so many years. And there's women in this industry that you sort of feel like you constantly see names and you see them and you know of them. And you've been doing this for so long and successfly.
Thank you.
What is it that made you originally want to get into storytelling? Because you do it all. You write, you direct, you act. Like, seriously, so what was it that originally that lit that fire?
Thank you. I'm like you, I really initially was very drawn to the idea of telling stories through personification and characterization, trying to embody a someone, a someone other than me to express different stories. And I found great solace in that. But I had always been a writer. So I had been writing kind of closeted, as it were, for my mother. My mother and I would share that as a point of bonding and a form of expression of love and whatnot in letters and whatnot. And then I just started to sort of quietly build a canon of ideas that I wanted to eventually erect in some way, or bring to fruition.
Yeah.
So I'm very lucky that I had a mom who really supported the living daylights out of me, hey, you could do anything you want and all that stuff. So I will say that then coming to Hollywood, okay, I went to drama school in England for 4 years and I paid my dues. My mom said, listen, if you're going to be an actor, you need to do it the right way. So obviously you can tell I have a good rapport with her. So I took her advice and I heeded that and went to conservatory there. And it was great. I mean, I don't feel now that I live here and I do this, I don't feel like you have to do that in order to become an actor. But certainly it was an epic lesson in endurance, to be honest, to sticking with it. But with that, I think that's when it started to be very clear that I wanted to be directing and I wanted to be sort of touching stories in all different spaces, including creating character, but then also writing character and directing, what spaces look like, what it feels like architecturally and composition. And my mom's a designer and, I come from a family of architects and producers of other things, not in film, but real estate, and you just start to kind of, all those things start to shape into the avenues that are available to us, right, in our industry. And certainly it was a natural fit that writing and directing, and then in an extension, writing other things as well,
Yeah. Why London?
So my mom is quite traditional in her ways, and she felt, well, if you're going to be, a classically trained actor, she's not in the business, so she was like, I think you've got to go to London, to do the thing. And I was like, what, So I thought I could satiate her sort of need for me to do that by doing like a summer course. So I went and did a summer course. I said, okay, I did it. I trained in London. She goes, no. So then I got there. And when I was doing that summer course, I then also was sort of bitten by that idea that, oh, wow, this would be epic if I could get into drama school here. And so I, alas, auditioned for a drama conservatory whilst I was there and got in and then said, hey, guess what, Mom? I'm not coming back for 4 years. And she was like, God damn it. That really bit me in the ass. So it was one of those things where I'm grateful I did it. I wanted to come out to Hollywood right away. And even before, I didn't want to go to training. I just wanted to I knew what I wanted to do since I was 4. Yeah. So
really that young?
Yeah, I knew. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I mean, what about you? When did you first go, oh God, I got to do this?
I loved performing from a very young age. I was the kid singing and tapping on a table when I was a child. You know what I mean? And pretending like it was a stage. That was always me. Like you, though, my dad was a developer. So, yes.
Whoa, where?
Yeah, in Oregon.
Okay.
So my parents, while they encouraged the artistic side of me, I think because they always saw that in me, they were always sort of hoping that I would
get over it.
Into an environmental law. Or
yeah. Get a real job.
Yeah, of course. In real estate or in architecture or something that was tangible that they could understand. Did your parents always support the arts?
I mean, I think this is delicate because I want to give my mom, I give a lot of credit because she really was the one. They've been divorced forever and remarried and all that jazz. But my dad was more like, what is this? When are you going to go to real school? But my mom was the one who was like, we have to let her do what she needs to do to get it, out of her system, or whatever. So I think that they kind of figured out that there was a non-negotiable situation. I'm very privileged and lucky that my family had the means to support me to do that. I know that now as a parent. I'm like, Jesus. It's expensive. Kids are expensive. And, I'm grateful to my dad to saying okay, yes, you can do this. And clearly you're not going to be quiet about it. So,
yeah. I saw that another part when I was researching you, that your dad owns and redeveloped racetracks.
Yeah, so I have like a secret motorhead part of my department of my brain. And
which is just is beyond me.
Are you a car person at all? Do you have like
am.
Yeah, right? See, the women they love it. They're interested. They're interested in it from an experiential point of view. How does it make you feel? What kind of car, And cars have always been a huge part of my childhood and growing up. My dad in real estate would develop race car tracks. So I was literally on the sidelines of a track my whole life. And he raced, amateur racing, sports vintage racing, that kind of stuff, all European road courses. So not like ovals, that we think of in America. But and it was always a profound part of my only way to connect to Dad, really. And I wrote a car column for the Hollywood Reporter for a couple of years.
Mind blown.
It was so fun. It was so cool. And again, more from a standpoint of anecdotal, sort of stories in and around, like how does a car provide narrative, for me in this experience and in my own experience growing up, and
well, cars tell stories.
Yeah.
They tell stories of our own existence. They tell stories. They mark history. Like there are cars associated with times in life that are inevitably tied to a person forever. That people think of a car and they think of a person immediately. That's just
first date, the smells, like when my ex-husband and I first got together, we had a 1988 Land Cruiser, and it was just the smell of it, the way that it was slow, and you're going to get there when you get there, and the radio didn't work. It's like all of these things are so romantic and so poetic, and equally, just even thinking about having an electric car and kind of electric cars and how they are kind of showing up and stamping onto our cultural sort of ecosystem, of how we are either angry at certain electric cars and how we, find it really changing the shape of how we live.
Yeah. Did you ever think about racing?
So absolutely. I mean, in full disclosure, I have a racing movie that I'm trying to make, that I've been trying to make for like 8 years.
Oh my God.
That is female driven.
I was like, hire me, obsessed.
And it's very dear to my heart for obvious reasons. And I never thought of myself as like a speed queen. So I'm more interested in the rough and tumble of kind of off-road and, the kind of, wielding the machine in a way that is sort of kinetic and shocking. I find that slightly more of a turn on when it comes to my automotive fantasies than speed. Speed, I'm sort of humbled by speed in a little bit. I've been on a fast track at Charlotte going like almost 200 miles an hour. And there's something in body that I'm like, it's not my thing. It's not my thing. But
Do you like Formula One?
I like Formula One. I don't follow in the way that some of my friends do, or my dad certainly. But I like the personality and the stories of cars. It's really that. I mean, I have a whole series of these photographs. When I lived in France, I also lived in France, and my best friend Kate and I would, different Kate, my best friend Kate and I would go, we met there, we were like 15, 16 years old at a school year abroad, and we lived there for a whole year in Rennes in Brittany. And we have a whole series of photographs of us pretending to get into cars as if it's ours. So it's like half of all of our our photographs are these memories of us going like into a Cinquecento, like just as if we're like, just into like a deux chevaux, like, and just finding the delight and like, who is this person? Who is she?
Yeah.
Where is she going?
Yeah. So when you talk about racing though, are you more intrigued by like off-road races like the Baja?
Yeah, so my script is about the Baja 1000. So it's so crazy. You totally know your fucking shit.
Yeah, I am blown away by not only the people that do the Baja in cars, but people that also do it on motorcycles.
Yeah, the Iron Manning. Yeah, that's really intense. I agree with you. I mean, and just for your listeners, if you don't know it, it's a 1,000-mile race. There's also a 500, but 1,000-mile race on the Baja Peninsula in Mexico, and it is raunchy. I mean, there's no bleachers, there's no like spectators. I mean, if you want, you could. There's just people like bring in a chair and some barbecue, and they don't close any of the roads. So there's just, you can be driving, and there's like anybody can be a part of this race. It's not elite, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to, have the specs for your class. But yeah, it's dangerous. They don't close the roads down. So all of a sudden you're driving through one part of the course, and like cows are crossing, and it's just like boo, and like you're like, okay, I guess we're stopping for freaking 10 minutes while these cows do their thing.
Yeah. It's not out of the realm of likelihood that you break an axle on your car and you're trying to fix it in the middle of the race.
Absolutely.
With limited parts. I mean, like,
and then it's nice because there's a lot of camaraderie, right? Like the locals are so excited about the Baja being there, and they're like, oh, let me go check the shed, and they come out and help you. And it's just it's such a warm and exciting race. And I'm so excited to hear that you knew about it. And see, this just proves my point that women want to see this movie.
Yeah, no, I've always been like you. I don't have, I like to go fast to a certain extent.
Right.
When it goes, when I start to go faster than, 85, I feel a little like, shouldn't be doing this. My body starts to, even on a motorcycle, even more so. I got on a motorcycle at Laguna Seca.
Oh yeah. My dad's there a lot.
Yeah. And loved it.
Okay.
But was very, very, very cautious.
Yeah.
Whereas, other girlfriends I was with were not, and arguably comparable riders in skill. I just was like, the experience of it was enough for me. I don't need to see how fast I can go.
That's interesting. I'm with you. I find it like I was on Top Gear. It's like I didn't want to, I think drifting is fun. I like the idea of like a pendulum turn.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean by wielding. I liked wielding the machine versus feeling that like, like you're jumping out of an airplane kind of fast.
Yeah.
And that, because I don't really feel like jumping out of an airplane. I've never wanted to bungee jump. I don't go on the, whatever, those roller coasters where your stomach kind of flies in the air, but I do like to feel like torque,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we're probably alike in that.
Raycon's everyday earbuds are the perfect gift for your mom, whether she is hitting the gym like I do, going for walks like I do, taking calls while she's on the walks like I do. When I'm with my baby and I am pushing him and he's taking a nap in the stroller and I'm getting my workout in, I am also rolling phone calls and listening to podcasts at the same time. And I love my Raycon everyday earbuds. They come in so many colors. I have them in the cutest watermelon color. It is amazing. It is exactly like a watermelon. But I think that my mom would love this forest green color. It's one of her favorite colors, and I am super excited to get them for her for Mother's Day. Go to buyraycon.com/Sackhoff to get 20% off site-wide. Right now, Raycon is offering up to 20% off site-wide when you go to buyraycon.com/Sackhoff. buyraycon.com/Sackhoff, Sackhoff, and have a great Mother's Day. What's your dream car?
So great question. You know I have an answer. I like Italian cars from the 70s. So I like a Lamborghini Miura. I like a Detto Mazzo, a Mangusta. I won't kick a Pantera out of bed, but I think
you say Pantera, in my mind that's a dessert.
Yeah.
I don't know Italian cars at all.
I'm going to send you some imagery.
I don't know Italian cars at all.
Well, the Detto Mazzo you would really like. I think you've definitely seen the Miura. If I show you the Miura, you go, I know exactly what you're talking about. It looks like a shark. It looks like a shark, and then it's like the eyes are like flat. It's pretty cool. And then I did just sell I had this amazing 1979 Z28 Camaro. And her name was Janet, and I just sold her, and it was really heartbreaking. But,
do you regret it?
It's been a rough year. It's been a rough couple 5 years. So I had to do what I had to do. And the truth is, cars, once again, at different chapters of your life will come in and come out. It's like the 1988 Land Cruiser was in my life at a certain point, and it was seminal for us in our relationship. We got divorced, and like then it moved on, And then same with Janet. Janet was like first half of singlehood after my divorce, and then who knows who's coming next into the garage.
I had a 94 Defender, and I wanted the Defender since I was 16 and was able to drive.
Love a Defender.
I got a Wrangler instead because obviously I couldn't afford a Defender.
Yeah, of course.
And I wanted one so bad. And I held on to it for a very long time. I loved, like you, I loved the Land Cruiser. Like the shifting on the tree was something I really loved. Yes. But I love that like purposeful shifting.
Yeah.
That like of an old
that
truck.
Was Janet.
I love that. I love the like you got to mean to go. You know what I mean?
I
loved it.
Yeah, Janet she was picky. She was like, my tachometer didn't work, so I had to just listen to when to shift.
I always loved when mine died on the freeway, and I had to like restart as I'm going.
You just gotta listen.
Here we go.
Like she wants to shift. You gotta blip and downshift. Yeah,
I know. And when I sold her, I still regret it. I still regret it. I mean,
you're gonna have someone else. You're gonna have another moment. You're gonna have another.
Yeah. I'm trucks. I'm looking for like an old Ford, like a 77 Ford.
That's hot. Yeah. That's good. That's some good stuff right there. I think, it's interesting. As you grow too, it's like, as you grow up, you kind of, your interests kind of shift, pun intended. And I never even considered a VW Bug, but there's something about like, I don't know, I'm having nostalgia for it now, just like an old, like all black, just kind of emo. I don't know.
Like when you get in and the seat sort of goes with you.
I had a 1987 D-Reg Mini in London when I was there, and that was really fun. That was before I really drove stick too, so it was just an automatic. So it was basically a go-kart. They're like the size of a matchbook, and I used to fit like 10 girls in there.
Of course you did. It's like a clown car.
Total clown car.
Just keep shoving them in. We can fit. We can fit.
Exactly.
So we have something else in common in that we have both voiced Poison Ivy.
Whoa. I did not know that.
Yes.
Tell me everything. What did you do? What did you do?
So I voiced her twice, in two separate movies that went together. Batman the Long Halloween. Part 1 and Part 2.
Whoa. So for people who like Poison Ivy, this is kind of an epic moment, right?
It is an epic moment. I saw that and I was like, get it. She is one of my favorite villains. Like, were you just, was it sort of brought up to you by the team over at Harley Quinn? Or was it something where you were like, please let me play Poison Ivy?
You know what? It was... because I do a lot of voiceover, and I think that they wanted like it's I don't know if you've seen the DC show, but it's highly comedic, highly improvisational, and so I think that they wanted a wry kind of improv, the kind of potty mouthed, sarky kind of way to go, and they just approached. So I was very into it, and very keen on the tone of this show, which I think is just really irreverent, smart, and kind of fucked up. So that I was like, sign me up.
Yeah. My daughter is obsessed with the DC superheroes.
How old are your kids?
3 and 9 months, 10 months.
Wait. Okay. So you have babies.
They're super. Although my son looks like a grown man and he's 10 months old. But yeah.
Oh God, I miss that. I got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. So,
but that's also like, I mean, I cannot wait to see what they're going to be like as they get older.
I know, it's the best. It's very cool. It's also really, I mean, look, my daughter has epilepsy, that's what we're gonna probably get into that.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. Yeah.
That, for instance, you can't anticipate what's ahead of you, and so you just relish in the moment. Yeah. And I've learned so much more than I bargained for. So already with both of my children and all of their kind of neurological magic.
How did you discover that your daughter had epilepsy?
Well, she fell over having a seizure for 2 minutes. So that was at 1.5. So kind of.
I'm sorry, at 1.5?
1.5 was her first seizure. It was a febrile seizure. Also, just to let you know, if anyone has, if you have a seizure and your kid's having a seizure at that age, it's usually like associated with fever. So it's called a febrile seizure. And they grow out of that. So you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to grow out of these seizures by 6 years old. Like this sucks, but at least there's an end date, And then at 5 years old, she had her first seizure without a fever. And we knew that she had epilepsy. And that started the path of a really sort of complex journey of figuring out how to help her, because she was up to 11 to 16 seizures a day. Not all grand mal, which are the big fancy ones, where they are, out of consciousness and convulsing. But myoclonic, seizures, which is just a kind of a fancy word for stutter seizures. So they kind of show up as, that kind of thing. So if you're trying to express yourself and it kind of, it wreaks havoc on your ability to articulate. So she was dealing with that 11, 16 seizures a day at 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. And, that was, for Scott and I think we're such good friends and teammates in our co-parenting because we really went through trenches together, and it would be so bizarre to be angry at each other after whatever, bullshit fucking marriage thing that happened, our marriage is over, but we are the only two people who love our kids and this much. Like, we have that shared life experience, and it's really important to us after what we have seen with our children and almost lost them, and you just feel like, let's put our shit aside so that we can be comrades in this.
So was she then at 1.5 misdiagnosed with the what are they called? The
febrile.
I don't know what they're called. The febrile. I was going to call them the febrile. The febrile. Was she misdiagnosed then, or?
It's a good question. No. Yeah. Okay. So you can totally have febrile seizures, and really and truly grow out of it, and you don't have them anymore, and you don't have epilepsy. It's just, for Nova, you kind of don't know if someone has epilepsy until their body shows up their brain sort of broadcasts these seizures in a way that kind of puts you in that new department of, yes, you have epilepsy. And then, of course, we did genetic testing, and it turns out she has a genetic mutation. And that is what causes it. The good news is that she was medicated, the seizures did and stopped. And then we titrated her off of her meds, and she is currently seizure-free without meds. So that's also the wonderful, unpredictable, and amorphous creature that is the brain.
How did you, full transparency, our daughter at 8 months old was diagnosed with a rare form of pediatric cancer. And she also has a mutation of her cancer cells. So we're like,
Okay. How does that show up for her in her experience right now?
So right now, right in this moment, she is cancer-free. We have, every 3 months she gets scans. And so we're in this weird holding pattern to sort of see what's going to happen with her mutation, which we don't know. But my biggest question for you is, how did you learn to navigate your daughter's epilepsy within the medical system and figure out how best to support her? And where did you start? Like, I mean, what was that like?
First of all, I'm sorry you're going through that. I really sympathize and also relate to, I empathize with where you're at right now. And I knocked all the wood, around me just to be like, I'm so glad that she's currently cancer-free.
Thank you. Yeah.
So Scott and I really Scott was incredible, my ex-husband, in being integral to being able to kind of decode a lot of the language, because sometimes it just gets confusing. And I think as a mom, you're so wrapped up in the emotional, you're carrying all that emotionality, and I was grateful to have a very active teammate in that. He also, Scott, went to the community college in our neighborhood to learn how to be an EMS, because he wanted to understand and be a paramedic and be able to speak the language. So
smart.
that was very noble and cool, obviously. But Children's Hospital Los Angeles, I cannot speak more highly of them. But children's hospitals in general, I think, have this incredible way of supporting the children, but then also considering the parent. And it is hard. Not everybody has the best bedside manner. That's not their job. Their job is to see how they can best help you and the diagnosis of your child. I think the most profound resource was forums, parent forums and the Epilepsy Foundation, and connecting with people who are dealing with the same thing. I think peer-to-peer parent conversations and sharing of, medicines and different modalities of managing whatever it is. I think that became the resource that was most fruitful for us.
Yeah. How has it also affected, if at all, your second child? Because he came 3 years after, right?
Yes. He was present for most of her stuff. And, he is the most well-adjusted guy ever, because he was born hypoxic. So we had to deal with neurology shit with him too. My
Lord, I'm so sorry.
But
there's just so much.
He came back. He's with us, and he's A-okay in his development. And I think that he's just been awarded with such sort of grace and flow to how he takes on the world. For people who don't know the word hypoxic, it means without oxygen. He was trigger warning. He was stillborn when he was born, and then he came sort of back, as it were. So he was not with us. And then he came.
Lord.
Yeah. And so this happens to people, this is like, I speak about it because I'm like, hey, look, we're all just doing the best we can. And once again, this is why Scott and I have forged such a familial and loving bond. And, with that, I think he has this sense of, I've died before I've lived. So he has this very Zen quality to him.
Wow.
And he sees his sister go, with her EEGs and, the 72-hour EEGs where she's got this whole computer on her head, while she's at home or going out to In-N-Out Burger or Target to get a whatever, and Nova suffers from anxiety for obvious reasons. If you can imagine trying to articulate yourself as a 5 or 6-year-old and really just coming into your communication and how you relate to people, and then you get zapped with something to arrest your ability to communicate. So she's got a lot on her plate, and I think hearing Nova sort of articulate what it feels like, even seizures, like how she experiences and what it feels like, because it's kind of curious, you're like, what does that feel like? And the way she speaks to her friends and her classmates, and how she has this sense of now ownership and understanding that that's just part of who she is what inspired me to write the book that is called All About Brains. And she also has a cocktail of other magic, which includes anxiety disorder and ADHD and dyslexia, which are all things that I talk about in the book as well. So,
how do you take care of yourself when you're going through all of that as a mom?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so curious because
I'm like weed. I'm just kidding. Just like good weed and alone time. Therapy. I have spaces that I go to that are purely for me. I do ceramics, so when I do ceramics, it's like I don't even have answers to anything. So if someone's like, "Mom, where's the blah, blah, blah?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't. Because I just always have the answers, especially as a director. I'm like, I'm always answering all the questions for everyone. And then I just don't know anything. And it's wonderful. So that's a meditation that I take very seriously. I do yoga, I do nature walks, I do all these types of things when I can. And I write.
Yeah.
So those, and it's also, what we don't value enough, which is just I service and participate in friendship. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah, community.
Yeah. I really like to invest in that, and like silliness and playfulness, like game nights and house parties. When I don't have the kids, I'm like, seize the day, seize this moment. Take a nap, do things that are just purely loving and a privilege to this moment of aloneness,
What kind of ceramics do you do? Are you on the wheel? I'm
on the wheel a little bit, but I mostly do hand builds. I got some right here.
I was looking in the background as soon as you said that, and I do the wheel. I love.
Really? Gosh, we're supposed to be friends, I guess.
She said that. I was like, pottery is like meditation to me. I get it. It makes so much sense.
So interesting. How are we not like? I mean, we're poison ivy, basically.
We both. I feel like we might be the same person right now, or at least walking somewhat parallel lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where we can have complete empathy and understanding of what the other person is sort of experiencing. talk to me about, I want to talk about the book because I know that is why we're here. And
well, we're also forging a friendship. So
we're also,
there's a lot going on.
I'm going to send you a note after this. Like, do you want to be friends? Check yes or check no, maybe. If I have time, you'll get back to me. So all about brains. Who's the book for?
The book is for, okay. So I was going to say my book is for Nova. No, but it's not just for Nova. It's for children and parents and educators to have a starting place to forge real, meaningful conversations around neurodiversity. So it's not, this bunny is different than the other bunny. It's like, we're going to use big words. We're going to use the real words. We're going to say autism. We're going to say epilepsy. We're going to say ADHD. We're going to say all these words. And then we're going to allow for children who imbue these conditions speak for themselves. So that it gives it accurate context, but through the mouths of babes, as it were, so that they can, I think sometimes the things that I had access to were either too grown up, too didactic, didn't have access points for my kids and they were bored and what? I don't know what that is. Or it was too sort of, it was skirting around the issue. And I think that Nova really kind of inspired this book because of how she articulated her experience as a young woman with epilepsy and being able to advocate for herself and educate and have children ask questions. So, and hearing those kinds of conversations was what got me there. And I thought, oh gosh, I want that for my kids. I want it for your kids. I want it for me as a parent, just to be like, hey, do you ever feel that way sometimes? Just because we talk about anxiety in there, just that the brain itself is this creature of surprises and magic. And it's the only part of our bodies and muscle that doesn't have a roadmap. It's like you can speculate that the brain will do X, Y, or Z. But with the heart, you're like, this, we're going to fix this. This is, it's going in here, it's going out here. This is the shape, this is the architecture. Well, the brain, the more and more neurologists I talk to, is just like this creature of surprises. I keep saying that because actually I just thought of it today, because it's just, I feel like if I've learned anything about it, it's that it is, it's unpredictable in the most wonderful ways as well. And these neurological differences, these diversities really do afford great superpowers and, yes, challenges. So it's like, it can be both things.
I think that's one of the things that I realized spending so much time in Children's Hospital that you don't realize when you are when you have healthy children. I think that the one thing you don't realize is how many children spend time, either a brief amount of time or an extended amount of time, in and out of children's hospitals for so many different reasons. So many different reasons. And one of the things that we chose to do, that it sounds like you did as well with Nova, was we didn't hide anything from Ginny, even though she was, she was a year old when she started chemo. And we talked her through everything. And I think sometimes, the nurses and other parents were, I don't want to say appalled, but a little shocked of the conversations we were having with our child, because we witnessed other people sort of keep them in the dark. And then we saw them actually, in our opinion, get more anxious because they didn't know what was happening. So we chose to tell her everything, everything that was happening to her, everything that was going to happen to her, because if we were honest about it, when we said it was going to end, she believed us.
Right.
So we did all of that. But it's so hard to find children's books that take all of that into consideration, that give the child credit for understanding big complex things.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think, I stylistically, parents have their own ways of dealing with it themselves too, right? It's like we don't, you kind of look around, and especially at Children's Hospital, families are going through all kinds of things, and if they feel like it's their choice to keep them in the dark because of X, Y, and Z decision they have, all for it. But for me, and sounds like for you, the choice was, I'm gonna be pretty overt in letting you know exactly what's going on. For a kid with anxiety, which our daughters perhaps do, just based on what their experience is. Certainly my daughter does. She really does she needed to know what was going on. I mean, even going to like the grocery store, she needs to know. I'll be like, we're going to leave in 10 minutes. Okay. Okay. And so what's going to happen is we're going to leave in 5 minutes. Okay. So if you need to go to the bathroom, this is the time to go to the bathroom. And just once again, so we're going to leave an hour in 2 minutes. So go ahead and it's like, and then of course my son will be like, what are we doing? I'm like, oh my God, Ozzy, I just said it like 7 times. He's like, I didn't know we were going to the grocery store.
Yeah. It's also for your benefit by proxy.
I know. I'm like, oh.
FYI.
But I think that with, big scary stuff, I just had to be like, here's the deal. We're going to go in. You might have to get a pokey. And like, what do you mean you might? I'm going to call them right now and find out if it's a yes or a no. Hold on. And then it would be like, okay, you are definitely getting a pokey. And you're like, okay, let's be upset about it right now. And you could be upset the whole time if you want, but let's think about what we could do to deal with this pokey. Okay. Like, do we need to bring obviously we're going to bring the iPad. Do we need to download some extra stuff? Do we need kids' YouTube? Is it that level?
Yeah.
Do we need, a chocolate donut? You tell me what you need to get through this crazy situation. But this is what we're doing. I can write it down so you can see it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with this book, All About Brains, if you're a parent who's like, I don't even know how to, what? Like, I don't know what to say. It's too much. This would be one version. Might not be for you, but I would highly recommend that the kids in this book, know what they're talking about.
What do you say to parents that are like, no, both of my children are typical kids, nothing going on, just normal kids. Can they still read the book?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's really cute. I read it to both of my kids' classes.
Awesome.
The classroom. And of course, the book's not out yet. So I got to give them a sneak peek. And, Ozzy's classroom, bunch of 7 and 8-year-olds, I'd say 40% of them have a something, right? You've got a little dyslexia. I have dyslexia. You got a little ADHD here in the corner. You got one kid, there was one child with autism, in the classroom, right? You've got quite a few kids. So, and as I'm reading it to them, they're all going like this, which is sorry, just for your listeners, they're doing a symbol that says, I agree, I have that, right? I relate, me too, whatever, right? So as I'm reading it about, all kinds of things like OCD or anxiety or even in epilepsy, there were things in the way that the kids describe it in the book that all of the kids were feeling like, well, I could relate to that. And I'd like to share and talk about the fact that, or my sister does that. She runs around and buzzes, feels like she has bees inside her body or is worried about things and she doesn't even know what. It was a really beautiful jumping off point for kids who can look around side by side and go, oh, yeah, I heard those words before. I didn't know that they weren't that they're not scary. I now know that those words are just kind of like a part of the human condition in many ways, because whether we like it or not, it's like all these differences are just part of the human experience. Like we all have a little something,
a little spice.
Little spice.
I believe one of the main things that I learned through my experience that it sounds like you did as well was, people used to say, like, you don't get more than you can handle. And I firmly disagree. I believe that life just gives you life. And you either step up to it or you don't. And I'm really happy that you've written a book that inspired by Nova that is, I'm sure, going to help so many people, because it came out of something that's incredibly scary that no parent wants to go through.
I know. And what you've said is really poignant too, which I think kids who deal with any kind of neurodivergence, they are served that plate of circumstances, whether, and, is it more than they can handle or not, or are they going to meet it? It's like, they have to wrestle with that very complex, nuanced idea every day. And it's nice to also kind of allow for there to be some patience and some generosity of spirit to even my own kids. Sometimes when Nova's having a real kind of ADHD moment and I'm frustrated, I am like at the end of the rope. And I have to reframe and I'm allowed to be frustrated, and she's allowed to be struggling right now, in that she cannot stop talking or stop motoring around an idea or ideating on something that is just going nowhere, and we need to go or whatever, and I have to kind of actively find some patience and kind of like put my, to also be an experience with her, because it's not like she's doing it to piss me off. She's doing it because she can't frickin' help it, And she's so articulate. She'll be like, Mom, I can't, you're saying stop, go with the flow, just self-regulate. And she's like, I'm hearing it and I don't have the tools. I can't stop it, but she's so like, it's amazing to talk to her because she's such a resource to understand better, and that's really what I think. It's the conversation, the curiosity, and understanding better. And it's 100% for children who don't necessarily identify with having a neurodiversity, as well as those who do. But, you can read the little paragraph on ADHD, for instance, or even autism. And there can be so much that is universal in what it is to experientially be in childhood, in your little body, growing. Your brain is, activated in a way that is unique and wholly yours.
Yeah. Well, children are such brilliant teachers if we just allow them, give them the respect to guide us. My children are teaching me so much every single day.
Yeah,
and
whether you like it or not.
Usually the things that I need to work on the most.
Oh, yeah. Kids are going to find whatever your wound is and then just be like, keep, push,
God in heaven. Yeah. Daily, to my knees on a daily basis. This has been really wonderful. When is the book coming out? When can people get it?
So it comes out April 15. April is Neurodiversity Awareness Month, and in a time when those kinds of diversities are being squashed, please support. You could get it on anywhere books are sold. It's Simon & Schuster. You could go there anywhere, but it's also groovy looking. The illustrations are just beautifully penned by Rachel Katstaller. And she's from El Salvador. She's very, I've enjoyed and been a fan of her work from afar, from just reading books, to my children and being like, who is this woman? So I was very lucky to get her to illustrate the book.
Amazing. Thank you for taking the time
Thanks for having me.
to sit down with me. It's been really wonderful. I feel like I've talked to myself for the last hour.
It's been great. All right. Excited. Well, I'm sending you guys love and health.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Hindsight. Thanks for sticking around. I'm still Katee, and I am joined by my producer and co-host of the podcast, Jeph Porter. Hi.
Still up in the air.
It's still on. I mean, it's thin ice. We don't even know.
Yeah.
Unpaid position.
Yeah, just extra work for me. That's fine.
It really is. And we have four live shows this year still, Jeph.
Amazing.
We should talk about those actually, but I think we have Ocala for sure. If people are in Florida, there's going to be a live show there.
All right.
I believe that there's going to be a live show in Texas, a live show in Denver, and a live show in Raleigh. So we'll keep you posted when those become completely locked in.
Yeah.
But it's going to be exciting. I love that we're doing live shows.
Yeah, and if you want a live show near you, just bug anybody you can and rattle down doors.
Yeah, do it. Especially when you find out that I'm coming to a convention, because that is where we're doing those live shows, is at those conventions right now as a part of that. So
yeah,
you can come out and join those podcast recordings. There is a general admission ticket that's $25. So it's the entry point's pretty pretty reasonable, I think, Jeph.
We want people to come out, have fun, hang out with us.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done one so far, and it was fun to meet people that are listeners and fans and hang out. And it's a pretty cool little group of people to meet. And
it is. It's wonderful. So, we met some really beautiful human beings.
Yeah.
I think I might turn it into like drinks with Katee or something. Like maybe cocktails with Katee as well.
Right.
We might do like, you know how we did like the meet and greet for the VIPs?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that we could actually do that, but have wine and beer. And then do sort of like a BYOB, must be 21, unless we're in Canada. And then we're 19. BYOB or something, because that might be kind of fun.
So we're looking to get sloppy.
Well,
is what you're saying.
I think one of the things we talked about is actually making those live shows incredibly exclusive and not airing them.
Yeah. So if you want to hear what we talk about at the live show, which this last live show, we had some good questions. We talked about some things. We got serious about a few things, and
we did.
You'll never hear it unless you were there.
True. We talked about religion. We talked about The Office. We talked about
two very serious things.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah. Did you know of Lake Bell before this interview?
Yeah. I think I know her from Children's Hospital, which I put on the list to mention. I don't know if people are familiar with it. It's been a few years since that show was on the air, but it was a very funny Adult Swim show that was sort of a parody of a medical drama, but set in a children's hospital. You might actually find it very funny because it's sort of parodying a lot of that stuff, and I think maybe you could find some catharsis in it. I always find this so interesting that laughter and sadness, they sort of go hand in hand. You know what I mean? That it's sort of that thing that we had with Rachel Harris, where like in these really uncomfortable moments, sometimes laughter is the best medicine. I mean, we've heard that adage so many times in our life that laughter is the best medicine. There were times, and not often, but there were definitely times where Robin and I just laughed so hard at like our life, and like we make really inappropriate jokes, because you just sort of have to laugh, and I'm not talking about like adult things. I'm talking about like jokes about like our life and our daughter with cancer, and like people are like, "Are you joking about your kid with cancer?" And I'm like, "You gotta laugh." Like, you know what I mean?
Like,
you
have to. I mean, it's sort of, it gets to what you were talking about with Lake, where you talked about the adage of like, life gives you no more than you can handle, and your sort of your issues with that phrase. And I think laughter through trauma is how people handle these situations, because you can't just constantly exist in a state of dread and sadness and everything. Like, you need that release.
People do.
Yeah.
And I think, this is that we've talked about this so much on this podcast about like my spiritual journey and trying to find sort of like something, I believe in something bigger than myself. I don't know what it is. We're trying to figure this out. But, there is this thing that Robin and I are, sort of like this spirituality and Buddhism and learning that like everything that happens to you in your life is unique to you and your life. Like, it is your life.
Yeah.
And you have to accept and embrace all of it if you're going to be joyful that you are living your life, or be appreciative that you're living your life. You have to appreciate all of it. I find that so empowering. If you can truly do that and appreciate all the good, the bad, the everything, like, to bring it back to Lake, everything that she's gone through with her children as well, and just in her life, and she seems like such a positive person still, like has that ability to understand that it's all a gift, which is so challenging at times.
Yeah. I mean, something that you guys connected on was the health issues that your family goes through, specifically your children, which was one of many things you guys seem to have in common. I mean, it was a shocking amount of things.
I literally, and I think we even joked about it in the episode, I felt like I was talking to myself at times. Like, that she and I have been like quite literally living parallel lives in so many ways, just with a different set of circumstances. But so much of her life and my life, like when she was like about her ceramics and her pottery, I was like, me too. And she was like, stop it. And then just everything.
Yeah, I wrote down a quick list.
Go for it. How much did we have in common?
Both of your dads are in developing in real estate. You both have a strong passion for cars and driving, that kind of stuff. You both played Poison Ivy. The family health issues. You're into ceramics. Or that whole thing.
I think we're the same age too.
She was born March 24th, 1979.
So she's quite literally a year older than I am, almost to the day.
I don't really get into this stuff.
She's an Aries, though, so we also have that.
No, she is an Aries, and you're a Taurus, right?
No, I'm an Aries.
You are? Interesting. Because how come I looked up on? I don't get into that stuff, but I thought about it, and so I Googled it. But for some reason, Google told me that April 8th is a Taurus.
No, Google's wrong. You want to know what's so crazy? 99% of my girlfriend group and my guy friends are Aries. No, she and I had a lot in common. I was disappointed that like I wasn't in Los Angeles for her birthday. Like, that would have been a really cool birthday to be at.
Yeah. She was going to invite you, but
proximity.
I guess you guys got to work on your friendship a little bit more before you feel like you can travel for her birthday.
Yeah, it's true.
We might have cut that out of the episode, but Lake did invite you to her birthday, and
that might have been actually after we stopped recording, right?
Yeah. But either way, you couldn't make it, so it doesn't matter.
Either way. We have that a lot of times on our show, that after we're done recording, we actually have like 10 more minutes of really great conversation because the guest knows we're no longer recording.
Yeah, and that's where all the good stuff comes out.
It is.
Lake has an awesome birthday party, apparently.
Exactly. We should do a segment called The Good Stuff, where all we do is talk about what we talked about.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like, though, that Lake and I need to do like a car movie together.
She's working on a racing movie, apparently.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I think that she and I need to absolutely do that. I need to send her a muffin basket so she remembers me when that movie's done.
You guys did a little bit of comparing of cars, and I was trying to write them down as she was rattling them off, but I just lost track immediately.
Sorry, the big thing that she talked about was her Land Cruiser. And I almost bought a Land Cruiser in high school. And instead of buying the Land Cruiser, I ended up buying a Jeep Wrangler. And the reason I did that was because my parents wanted me to have a car that actually would drive. So they didn't want me to buy like a 1970s, Land Cruiser. Yeah. But the moment I had the ability to, I bought my Defender. And I still regret selling that car. I still regret it. It's
yeah.
If anybody asked me if I had any regrets in my life, it's the only one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I really enjoyed Lake. I really enjoyed her. I enjoyed her even more having talked to her now. And I just, were you intimidated by her intelligence?
I don't get intimidated by smart women.
Because you're smart? Well,
no, because I'm impressed. I'm a dumb guy that is impressed by smart women.
She is incredibly intelligent, yeah?
Yeah, and she's smart. She's very her career, she's very varied in her career,
Absolutely.
Like she's not just acting, she's producing, she's directing, she's writing. I mean, she's doing everything. And sadly, it's still like a rare thing for that to happen, especially with women.
It is.
And not that it's not happening, it's just rare to see somebody be successful at it because unfortunately we don't reward that.
Robin bought me an egg basket for my birthday. It's like a beautiful little basket that you actually go out to collect your eggs with. And I thought
that was a reference to you guys wanting to have more kids.
More kids, no. And I actually asked him for this full apron. That's what I wanted for my birthday, was a full apron. Because the half apron doesn't do it. I want full stop trad wife apron.
With frills on it and everything.
I want all of it. Because of its actual function.
Right.
But I do find it ironic too.
Yeah.
To sort of, be this total working woman who's also raising children with a husband who is probably more involved than I am, leaning into traditional values when it comes to certain things.
Yeah. Aprons, which is really on the edge of the culture wars right there. People are, famously people don't want frilly aprons because it just demeans women.
Man. It's you buy yourself a frilly trad wife full function apron, next stop, 8 babies and a ramp. and a food cellar, and you're canning your shit and talking about banning red number 3.
Yeah, but that if you were ever attacked, you could run out there in your apron with your shotgun and take care of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have a shotgun.
See, now you're accessorizing.
Oh, you're accessorizing. I mean, I did grow up in rural Oregon. So, I mean, we did grow up with weapons in our household.
I'm sure Lake would wear a frilly apron too.
I think she would too. I mean, but just function. I don't want to change my clothes when I'm cooking. I just want to cover it so I don't have to,
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm really excited about her book too. We've talked about this before. It's always, I have this anxiety sometimes when I know that someone's coming on to talk about something specifically, when they're coming on to talk about her book. But I want to talk about a whole variety of things, including the book, because the book is one piece of who she is as a human being. And so I want to learn all of that stuff. And I love when somebody is game for that, when they understand that that's what the show is. And she did, and it was just a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, and that way you can get to know her better and get invited to her birthday next year.
Yeah. I mean, that is the goal of all this shit, right?
Yeah,
podcast only exists so I can get invited to awesome birthday parties.
That's true. You're just making friends here.
Hey, Jeph, why don't let's jump into the mail sack?
Let's do it.
We're going to the Mad Why are we calling it Mad
You guys, you can email us at the sackhoffshow@gmail.com. Please send everything there. Hey, Jeph, I forgot to mention something really cool that happened on my birthday.
Oh, yeah.
So Robin and I went to dinner at this wonderful restaurant called the Laurelhurst Market here in Portland. Meat place. Like, if you like meat, go there. If you don't, you shouldn't go. They had the best deviled eggs I've ever had in my entire life. I mean, like, chef's kiss deviled eggs. Do you like deviled eggs?
I love deviled eggs.
Fuck me. You know, when you come up here, because we're going to do the podcast in Portland, I believe. When you come up here, we'll go there and we'll just eat deviled eggs. They have new ones every week, supposedly.
Wow. How many deviled eggs are there?
4 per order. Per order. I probably could have eaten one more. You know what I mean?
I meant like how many variety? Like how can you have new ones every week?
It's endless. It's endless.
Is it just like what you put on it? Like
yeah. And
topping wise?
I would imagine, like, you know,
in
what you
the
blend the yolk up with and everything.
Yeah.
Different spices and shit. But as we're getting ready to pay, or my husband's getting ready to pay because he's taking me to dinner, the waiter says, I would love to take your credit card, but one of our patrons, who's a regular, covered your meal.
Oh.
And so a gentleman named Richard, who is, and this is what he said, he's a big fan. Most specifically, he asked me to mention your podcast.
Aw,
and I was
sweet.
Like, yes.
So Richard is probably listening right now?
Possibly. So I wrote Richard a nice note because, like, that's so kind. Like, such a kind, completely unnecessary, but like, wow, amazing thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
well,
and I love that you mentioned
gift.
the podcast. I was like, yes, that's awesome.
The thing that you are the most known for.
I mean, obviously.
People go,
that happened on my birthday. And I was like,
great.
I will remember that forever.
That's such a sweet birthday gift to not only have the meal covered, but know that there are fans out there.
Exactly. So I wanted to mention that really quick because I actually said in the note to Richard that I might just mention this in the Hindsight. So thank you, Richard. You're amazing. We'll probably see you there again at some point if you really are a regular.
Great.
Anyway, so emails. Alex says, hey, Katee and Jeph. You guys, I don't have my glasses on. I got to get close. I was extra excited about your Hindsight this week because years and years ago, I did my thesis on memory and novelty. Oh, wow, cool. I think Jeph was pretty spot on with what he looked up. So good job on the research. Babies and toddlers make memories, which they have to so they can learn how to walk, talk, read, recognize family, and do all that other stuff that they can do. But we lose the ability to remember those events consciously at some point. I'm not an expert on kids, but I think one of the ideas is that once we really understand language and start thinking that way consistently, the memories we made before are so different that we can't get to them anymore. Interesting. Separately, novelty is important to memory for 2 main reasons. One is that new and different things grab attention, and we remember things better if we pay more attention to them. The other is just the fact that if our memory system decides something is new, it's more likely to encode it than other things that we've experienced a bunch of times. By the way, I got to meet Katee briefly this weekend in Pennsylvania. I hope you had a good trip and hope you come back toward the East Coast again sometime soon. Thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate that. I completely agree with that, Jeph.
Yeah, I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah. Did we talk about how, and I don't remember how I heard this. Maybe we talked about this, and this is what Alex is referring to, but that somebody told me this is why, or you told me this. This is why I remember high school and everything.
Yeah.
Because of the novelty of it all.
Yep. We talked about this on the Hindsight a few episodes ago about like when children make memories. And I did a little research. I did some really great research on it. No, Google. Come on, I'm old school.
Hey, so somebody told me that every time you use ChatGPT, it costs like 3 million or 3,000 gallons of water to cool the machine down.
Yeah, I mean, it ain't good.
I want to know if that's accurate, because that's
I don't know if
fucked
that's
up.
accurate, but it is very, very energy intensive. Not great for
Not
us
great
in
at
the
all,
environment.
man. We need to stop using ChatGPT. And think about how many fucking millions of people are using ChatGPT every second of every day.
We're really just nailing the coffins deeper.
We are.
For this email, the reason I pulled it was the idea of the thing that you called out as interesting was the memories we made before are so different that we can't get to them anymore.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me because we're going down into like the stoner zone here now. But like, if you think about it, you're making memories before you understand language. And so many of our memories, we describe them through the language that we know how to speak.
Yeah.
And when you're making memories before you understand language, it's just like those memories exist in their own language that we can't even interpret. It blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I never thought about it in that way, that of course Granger, let's use him because he's 10 months old. Of course Granger has memories. If he didn't have memory, he literally would, be suffering from dementia and not know who we were every time we picked him up. He'd be terrified. You know what I mean? So of course, he has memories.
Yeah, or like, I'm sure he knows like different types of food, things like that,
Yeah. Well, I think it's also crazy that we have memories attached to smells, the olfactory senses. So many times I get transported back to childhood through a smell, especially even more so now that I moved back to Oregon. Because so much of my childhood, remember I left when I was 18. So all of that childhood ahead of there's this place down the street from us. It's a garden, like a public garden. And Robin and I was walking through there by myself one day. I was memorizing dialogue. Sometimes I go on long walks to memorize dialogue. And I smelled a smell that literally transported me back to young childhood.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember what I was remembering, but my body started tingling.
Yeah.
Like I knew I was having something, but I couldn't, the machine that is my brain couldn't actually push through the barriers and get me back to the memory. But the smell was so familiar that I literally came home and I said, you have to come on a walk with me. And so he came with me. We drove down, brought the kids, and we smelled the smell. And I said, I want this in our yard. And it was winter jasmine.
Okay.
Or winter Daphne, winter Daphne. And he planted our entire driveway with winter Daphne. Whoa. We have like 30 winter Daphne bushes now.
And has that helped you crack what this memory is?
I still can't tell you what it was.
Oh. Maybe it's one of those super early memories that you can't translate.
Possibly. That's why I brought it up. Who knows? Maybe it is.
I think that's super interesting. If anybody knows anything more about memory that wants to email us, let us know.
I know. All right, Ryan says, I watched the BSG reboot and was a huge sci-fi fan before that, mostly Star Trek, and I was probably your age when you were acting in it. I tried so hard to get my friends to watch BSG, but they weren't really sci-fi fans in their hearts, but they loved great TV. I kept trying to convince my friends that the show was so well acted and executed that they should give it a chance. But once they heard the title, they basically cackled me out of the room. Oh, you want us to watch Battlestar SG-9 9000, SMD, whatever that means, but I get the joke. But my friends then, and still now, would probably appreciate every single aspect of the show if the title wasn't so tragically sci-fi, even if it was a great reboot. Have you ever run into that? I assume you only hear from fans, and the haters are so far out of orbit that you may never have heard of this. I feel like BSG suffered from diminished wider spread viewership simply because people were judging the book by its wonky 70s Star Wars copycat cover title. Anyway, you fucking rock. Thanks for finding Earth, bro. I find that so interesting because I disagree
it's
a little
something
bit,
that
Alex.
it's something that's
or
not
Ryan,
really
excuse me.
yeah. It's something that's not really talked about, but it is interesting that like the title of the show was taken from the 70s show, which is kind of a 70s style title. And I don't think people really associate Your Battlestar with that because Your Battlestar, I think, overcame so much of any of what the previous show was doing that they don't associate it with that. But it is, I mean, the same thing with Star Wars. Like Star Wars, we don't really ever think about the title, Star Wars. Like it's kind of a weird, corny title.
But what else would you call it?
I don't know. I mean,
what else would you have called Battlestar Galactica? Because it literally was a take on the original show. We couldn't have made our show and had these like machine-y things. I mean, I guess we could, and we could have called them something other than Cylons. But here's the thing. Something about our industry and something that is even more prevalent now. When I talk about IP, for people that don't understand what that abbreviation means, it means intellectual property. IP is a book, a previous show, a comic book, a song. Shows now are, there's so much content, less than there was, but things are so expensive and they really have to find an audience in an oversaturated market. So one of the things that helps you instantaneously find a market, find an audience, is it based on intellectual property? If it is, i.e. Battlestar Galactica, whether there is an audience out there that is completely avoiding it because it's got some cheesy 70s name to it, therefore they won't watch it. There is there is a large, vast audience that's going to watch it purely because it's called Battlestar Galactica. That is intellectual property. That's what intellectual property does. It gives you a built-in audience. So something like we talked about this a little bit with Alexander Breckenridge. When she didn't know what Virgin River was, but her friend was like, how do you not know what Virgin River is? Of course your show's going to get picked up for multiple seasons. It's Virgin River. Because it was such a sought-after, successful IP. They knew that if executed halfway good, that those people who were fans of those books would immediately watch the TV show. Because of intellectual property. You're buying an audience with IP. That has become such a huge part of our industry now. If you don't have IP or if your show is not based on IP, it's really hard to get a studio to look at it now. Sorry for that long-winded answer, you guys, but it's so prevalent in our industry right now. And people constantly say, don't we have an original idea? Yeah, we do. But the stakes are so high that studios are often not willing to take chances on things that don't have IP.
And historically, it's not popular to say, but historically they're correct in the sense that like audiences show up for known IP more than they show up for original ideas.
They do, which is why we continue to make Alien. We continue to make Fast and the Furious. We continue to make Star Wars. We continue to make Battlestar Galactica and Star Trek because IP brings eyeballs.
So if you want more original ideas, take more chances and go watch original ideas.
There you go. There you go.
But I think to the tone of Ryan's email here, I think even with the known IP of Battlestar, you are speaking to people who are likely to like a sci-fi thing and hear the tone of the name Battlestar Galactica. They know that this is something to do with sci-fi and also some vaguely militaristic type of thing. So there are people that are going to be not into that. I mean, in the same way that I hear Virgin River and my brain is automatically like, I don't know anything about the IP of that, but I'm like, yeah, it's probably not for me.
Yeah, but like when you hear Battleship, you go, oh shit. Is that like the board game? Yes, IP.
Yes. So I think the question is more like, do you ever just hear from people who aren't sci-fi fans who struggle to like get into sci-fi? And I mean, you probably don't, because why would they talk?
No, I do. I cannot tell you how many times I hear, I don't like sci-fi. My husband, my wife, my dad, my brother told me I had to watch Battlestar Galactica, and I hate sci-fi. But I watched it, and now I love sci-fi.
And Battlestar is probably some of the most grounded sci-fi because there's no aliens, there's no... I mean, it's got a lot of like high concept stuff, but it's much more just a human drama, even though it has robots in it.
Right. And I think that's sort of the thing is that so many wives, it's usually the husband introduces the wife to Battlestar Galactica, and they become a massive sci-fi fan. Because it's a fantastic entry show because it is basically West Wing in space.
Yeah. And I think and I'm curious, I think this is true, but you, through Longmire, I think have gotten a lot of people to transition over because people who aren't sci-fi fans can be fans of Longmire because it's so different than that. And they just become a fan of you and they want to see other things you're in. And then they see Battlestar, they see The Mandalorian, and, there's sort of
so much so that we are doing Longmire, my cast of Longmire is coming out on the sci-fi convention train with me. Adam Bartley is coming out, Robert Taylor, Lou Diamond Phillips, Cassidy Freeman. People are such big fans of Longmire that are also part of the sci-fi community that it makes complete sense in a weird way that the cast of Longmire would be at a sci-fi convention.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these conventions are almost just turning into like genre conventions.
They are. You know who I met this last weekend?
Who?
Ron Howard. Ron was at the convention in Pittsburgh, and we bonded over how much I love his daughter, how much I love Bryce, and how talented of a director she is.
You had never met him before?
Howard one compliment, but I complimented his daughter for about 15 minutes.
You had never met him before through Bryce or anything?
I had never met him. And he was sitting with Henry Winkler, who I've met multiple times, who is, as we know from Bryce's episode, her godfather. So wonderful human being. I just, he is everything I wanted him to be.
He will forever, in my mind, be the narrator for Arrested Development.
There you go. I think that's everything, guys. What is the question? Should I pull a card for the question for the fan for everyone, Jeph?
Yeah, I've been slacking on the questions, and also now that I'm thinking about it, you didn't ask a question to Lake, so we'll do a question for the fans.
Here's a question for you guys. Let us know. What's the most beautiful place that you have ever been to?
Ooh,
Jeph?
Good one. What is the most beautiful place I've ever been to? Oh, man, I've been to a lot of beautiful places. I mean, Hawaii is very beautiful. Parts of California are absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. The Grand Canyon was like, when I think of like natural, everything is like natural.
That's how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I've been to Italy. You've never been, so you wouldn't know this, but some of the architecture there is absolutely gorgeous. Oh, honestly, I think Tuscany might be one of the most beautiful places I've ever been.
I'm going to vomit through the computer on you.
Truly might be one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. What about you?
Banff is really beautiful.
Okay.
I think that in the United States, some of the most beautiful, and this is quite topical and a little political, so forgive me, everyone, because we don't go there on this show, but our national parks in the United States are some of the most gorgeous, extraordinary pieces of protected land in the United States. And it is a shame what is happening to them right now.
Yep.
And so some of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my entire life are our national parks. And we should be protecting them with every fiber of our being.
They are worth keeping no matter what anybody says.
And they need protecting on the ground. They need people working them. I mean, you can't have a national park without employees.
Yeah.
Government employees.
Yep.
So there you go, folks.
That's our political rant at the very end.
Yeah. I don't think anyone is going to be like, I think national parks should be fucking blown up.
Yeah, pave them over.
Anyway, thank you guys for sticking around to this point. I appreciate you. We appreciate you as always. And I cannot wait to see you next Tuesday. And that's what's up.